Good evening. Welcome to Loveworld USA News. I'm Barbara Sam. First, a quick look at the top stories this evening. China raises tariffs on U.S. goods to 125% in escalating trade showdown with the U.S. President Trump threatens tariffs, sanctions on Mexico over water shortage for Texas farmers. Trump assassination attempt suspect faces new state charge in Florida for attempted murder, terrorism. Supreme Court orders return of Maryland man wrongfully deported to El Salvador. Vietnam vows crackdown on Chinese transshipment to avert Trump tariffs. And now to the news. China announced Friday that it will raise tariffs on U.S. imports from 84% to 125% in direct response to President Donald Trump's recent decision to hike tariffs on Chinese goods to the same level. The Chinese finance minister called the move a necessary response to what is described as Washington's unilateral bullying and violation of global trade norms, signaling an intensified phase in the ongoing trade war. Despite the increase, Beijing stated it does not intend to react further if the U.S. imposes additional tariffs, noting that current market conditions already make U.S. goods uncompetitive in China. The tit-for-tat move comes just days after Trump announced the tariff increase via Truth Social, arguing it was essential to stop China from ripping off the U.S., end quote, and undermining international markets. The back and forth has prompted concern among global investors and policymakers. Trump's broader tariff policy, which includes levies on Chinese-linked fentanyl imports, now brings the total effective tariff burden to 145% on Chinese goods. Economists warn the mounting tariffs could disrupt supply chain and global markets. Although Trump and allies like investors Kevin O'Leary defend the approach as necessary leverage. The trade war deepening, China and the U.S. remain locked in a high-stakes economic standoff, with far-reaching implications for global commerce, inflation, and geopolitical relations. Both sides appear unwilling to back down, setting the stage for continued turbulence in the moments ahead. Let's take a look.
Beijing hit back yet again against US tariffs on Friday. China raised its own tariffs on US imports to 125%. It's in response to US President Donald Trump's decision to hike duties on Chinese goods to 145%. The move further raises tensions in a trade war which threatens to upend global supply chains. The turmoil unleashed by Trump's tariffs showed few signs of easing Friday. Markets tumbled and foreign leaders were unsure how to respond to the biggest disruption to the world trade order in decades. Stocks were battered this week, but saw a brief rally Thursday after Trump paused duties for dozens of countries for 90 days. But that quickly fell away as global stocks fell, the dollar slid, and a sell-off in US government bonds picked up pace on Friday. Gold is a safe haven for investors in times of crisis, and the metal scaled a record high. US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent tried to calm worried markets on Thursday. He told a cabinet meeting more than 75 countries wanted to start trade negotiations.
We're doing very well.
Trump himself expressed hope of a deal with China. But the uncertainty extended some of the most volatile trading in years. Asian indices mostly followed Wall Street lower on Friday. China's latest tariff hike also sent stocks down in Europe. The Stoxx 600 fell more than 1% on the day and was set for another drop this week, one of its most volatile on record.
President Donald Trump warned Thursday he will impose tariffs and possibly sanctions on Mexico if it fails to deliver water owed to Texas farmers under a 1944 treaty. In a Truth Social post, Trump accused Mexico of stealing 1.3 million acre-feet of water promised to South Texas, blaming the crisis for the closure of the state's last sugar mill and threatening economic consequences until the treaty is honored. Trump praised Senator Ted Cruz for his advocacy and criticized the Biden administration for ignoring the issue, vowing that under his leadership, the U.S. will enforce the agreement. He also pointed to his previous move halting water shipments to Tijuana as a sign of his administration's tougher stance. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins is reportedly leading efforts to escalate pressures until Mexico complies. The water dispute, rooted in a nearly 80-year treaty, has intensified amid a severe drought. Texas farmers, especially in the Rio Grande Valley, rely heavily on the water to sustain citrus and sugar crops, while the shortage threatening a major blow to the state's $500 million citrus industry. The U.S. recently denied a Mexican request to route Colorado River water to Tijuana in response to the ongoing shortfalls. The move, applauded by Cruz and supported the State Department, signals a turning point in the long-standing dispute, with the Trump administration tying treaty compliance directly to trade relations. Watch this.
President Donald Trump is warning Mexico he may impose sanctions and more tariffs on the country if it doesn't give Texas the water he believes is owed. Trump said Mexico owes Texas 1.3 million acre-feet of water under the 1944 Water Treaty. He has halted water shipments to Tijuana until the agreement is met. Trump accused Mexico of stealing water from U.S. farmers in a post on social media. Both Texas and Mexico are suffering from drought conditions. Mexico's President, Claudia Sheinbaum, directed her administration to contact officials from the U.S. Agriculture and State Departments. She added that Mexico has been supplying water as it's been available.
Ryan Routh, the man accused of plotting to assassinate President Donald Trump at his West Palm Beach golf club, is now facing state charges in Florida, including attempted first-degree murder and terrorism. Florida Attorney General James Utmir announced the charges Thursday, stating they stem from an alleged sniper plot Routh initiated in September of 2024, which was foiled by Secret Service agents before Trump arrived. These charges are in addition to the federal ones Routh already faces, including attempted assassination of a presidential candidate and weapons violations. The Florida charges were made possible by an executive order from Governor Ron DeSantis authorizing state action, which had been delayed due to what Utmir called obstruction from the Biden Justice Department. He praised the current Trump-appointed DOJ and FBI leadership under Attorney General Pam Bondi and Director Kash Patel for their cooperation in the investigation, which including sharing federal evidence with Florida Attorney General's office. Prosecutors allege Roth, armed with a military-grade SKS rifle, was discovered in a sniper position near Trump's golf club and fled after being detected. He reportedly carried burner phones, a written escape plan, and fake identification, and had previously attempted to acquire a rocket launcher from a Ukrainian contact. He has pled not guilty to all federal charges, and his trial is set to begin September 8th. Roth's defense team has filed motions challenging the validity of eyewitnesses' identification methods used by law enforcement, while Florida officials continue to build their parallel case. Prosecutors say additional evidence will soon be made public as state and federal authorities prepare for a high-profile legal battle. Let's take a look.
I'm Attorney General James Uthmire. On September 15, 2024, Ryan Routh attempted to assassinate then-presidential candidate Donald J. Trump at the Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach. Shortly after the assassination attempt, Governor DeSantis signed an executive order directing the Office of Attorney General to work with our law enforcement partners and investigate Mr. Routh. After 206 days of stonewalling by the federal government that stemmed from days of the Biden administration, I'm able to now announce that my office is charging Mr. Routh for the attempted first-degree murder of President Trump, as well as a charge for terrorism. My office, as well as our law enforcement partners, were met with major roadblocks in prosecuting this case during Biden's term. Biden and his attorney general sought to frustrate our efforts and block our investigation into the man who crossed into this state and attempted to commit political violence against a Florida resident. Thank God he was unsuccessful, and thank God we have Donald Trump as president again. The leadership of U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel was instrumental in preserving Florida's sovereign authority to do what is right and bring justice where it is due. We now have a federal government willing to work together to pursue justice. Attempting to take the life of a former president and a leading presidential candidate isn't just an attack on one man. This was a political attack against our Republican form of government and our shared American values. We cannot allow justice to be delayed or denied, and thanks to the President, our U.S. Attorney General, and the FBI Director, we are moving forward in our pursuit. Our statewide prosecutors will work to hold this evil man accountable and keep Florida safe, strong, and free.
The news will be back after this break.
This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, American history. It's our Declaration of Economic Independence. My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day. April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again. American steelworkers, auto workers, farmers, and skilled craftsmen watched in anguish as foreign leaders have stolen our jobs, foreign cheaters have ransacked our factories, and foreign scavengers have torn apart our once beautiful American dream. Our country and its taxpayers have been ripped off for more than 50 years, but it is not going to happen anymore. We are finally putting America first. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs on countries throughout the world. We will supercharge our domestic industrial base. We will pry open foreign markets and break down foreign trade barriers. More production at home will mean stronger competition and lower prices. From this day on, we're not going to let anyone tell us that American workers and families cannot have the future that they deserve. We're going to produce the cars and ships, chips, airplanes, minerals, and medicines that we need right here in America. We're going to build our future with American hands, with American heart. This will be indeed the golden age of America.
Welcome back. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, a Maryland resident and El Salvadorian national, must be returned to the United States after he was deported to El Salvador in violation of a federal withholding order. Garcia, 29, was mistakenly sent to El Salvador's notorious mega prison last month as an alleged MS-13 gang member, a claim his attorney denies. The court sided with a lower ruling that deemed his removal wholly unlawful and mandated the government facilitate his return and uphold his due process rights. According to his lawyer, Garcia fled El Salvador in the early 2000s to escape gang threats and later settled in Maryland with his U.S. citizen wife and children. He was detained in 2019 while soliciting employment and later accused of gang affiliation. His deportation occurred in March of 2025 despite a standing legal order barring his removal due to the threat of persecution. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, while expressing reservations about intervening, occurred that Garcia must be granted the full due process he was denied. The Department of Justice acknowledged the deportation violation, U.S. law, but emphasized the president's authority in foreign affairs, stating the ruling reaffirms executive control over diplomatic decisions. The high-profile case has drawn attention amid growing scrutiny of U.S. immigration enforcement policies. Advocacy groups and Garcia's family celebrated the decision as a victory for due process and accountability, while the Biden administration faces criticism for failing to prevent what the court deemed a serious breach of legal protection for asylum seekers. Watch this.
The Supreme Court has ruled that the Trump administration must facilitate the return of a wrongfully deported Maryland man, but without a set deadline for his release. In a unanimous decision Thursday, the High Court ordered that Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who was illegally removed to El Salvador last month, must be brought back to the U.S. though it sent the case back to a lower court to clarify how that should happen. Abrego Garcia is currently being held in El Salvador's Notorious Center for Terrorism Confinement, or CCOT, a mega prison designed for suspected gang members. The Trump administration acknowledged that Abrego Garcia's removal violated a court order prohibiting his deportation to El Salvador, but has argued that it cannot force a foreign government to release him. Solicitor General John Sauer wrote that the U.S. does not control El Salvador and can't be expected to let a member of a foreign terrorist organization into America tonight. The administration claims Abrego Garcia is a ranking MS-13 member. His family and lawyers strongly deny those allegations, saying he has been threatened by MS-13 since 2006 and fled to the U.S. to escape extortion and violence. The justices agreed that the government should make a good faith effort to rectify its egregious error, with Justice Sonia Sotomayor blasting the administration's arguments as plainly wrong. She warned that the position taken by the Trump administration could, in effect, allow the government to deport anyone, including U.S. citizens, without consequence, so long as it happens before a court can step in. The ruling now puts pressure on the administration to negotiate Abrego Garcia's return while staying within the bounds of foreign policy and U.S. law.
Vietnam is reportedly preparing a sweeping crackdown on illicit Chinese trade routed through its borders in a bid to prevent further tariff hikes from the Trump administration, according to a new report. The move follows concerns from U.S. officials that Chinese companies are bypassing American duties by relabeling goods as made in Vietnam. President Trump recently imposed a 46% tariff on Vietnamese exports, now paused for 90 days, prompting urgent trade talks between the two nations. The Vietnamese government has reportedly held emergency meetings directing trade and customs authorities to draft plans targeting transshipment abuse. These involve Chinese goods entering Vietnam with minimal processing before being exported to the U.S., skirting steep tariffs. While Vietnam benefits from being a key node in the global China Plus One manufacturing strategy, it now faces pressure to prove its exports are generally domestically sourced. Vietnamese officials are aiming to negotiate the tariff down to a range between 22% and 28% through the current pause provides only temporary relief. The country is also working on a decree to tighten export controls on dual-use technologies such as semiconductors, reflecting U.S. concerns over intellectual property and national security risk. Caught between its economic ties to both China and the United States, Vietnam is now walking a geopolitical tightrope. As Washington scrutinized supply chains more closely amid its broader trade war with China, Neo's Balancing Act will shape the future of its booming export economy and its relationship with both superpowers. In a blockbuster deal reshaping the global luxury fashion landscape, Italian powerhouse Prada has acquired rival Versace from U.S.-based Capri Holdings for 1.2 billion euros. The move, confirmed Thursday, forms a new fashion conglomerate with revenue surpassing 6 billion euros, setting the stage for fierce competition with luxury giants like LVMH and Kering, even as the sector faces global economic headwinds. Capri Holdings, which also owns Jimmy Choo and Michael Kors, had purchased Versace in 2018 for 1.83 billion euros, but declining sales and intensifying marketing volatility, amplified by President Trump's sweeping tariff policies, pushed the group to sell at a discounted rate. Negotiations accelerated after Donatella Versace stepped down as creative director last month, ending a 3-decade reign that began after the tragic death of her brother, Gianni Versace. Donatella will now serve as chief brand ambassador, while Miu Miu Dario Vital takes over creative direction, reflecting a strategic push toward younger luxury consumers. Prada chairman Patrizio Bertelli called the deal a new chapter, built on shared values of creativity and craftsmanship. The acquisition comes on the heels of Trump's dramatic tariff reversal this week, a 90-day pause on most global tariffs while increasing levies on Chinese imports to 125%. Financial markets soared in the news, but ongoing trade instability remains a critical backdrop for global brands like Prada navigating shifting geopolitical and economic dynamics. Let's take a look.
In a move to unite two of the biggest names in Italian fashion, Prada is to buy smaller rival Versace from Capri Holdings. The deal has an enterprise value of $1.375 billion, Prada said on Thursday. Prada is seeking to expand, having defied a slowdown in luxury demand, while Versace has been operating at a loss. The merger strengthens Italy's hand in a luxury industry led by French conglomerates. The price Prada has agreed to pay for Versace is a big discount to the roughly $2.15 billion, including debt, that Capri paid for Versace in 2018. Previously known as Michael Kors, Capri bought Versace from the Versace family and Blackstone. The deal follows the announcement in March that Donatella Versace was stepping down as the chief creative officer of the brand, founded by her late brother Gianni. The move also comes at a time when several acquisitions and IPOs have been scuttled in the wake of a global equity sell-off and fears of recession triggered by Trump's tariffs.
The news continues after this break. Stay with us.
The countdown to the Lord's soon return has begun, and in this first quarter of the year of completeness, Loveworld USA has indeed been spreading and preaching the gospel of our Lord Jesus, preparing the hearts of billions around the world to expect the Lord.
This year, we will complete the full preaching of the gospel in all nations.
Loveworld USA broadcasted life-changing programs with our man of God. Global Communion Service, Your Loveworld Specials, Global Day of Prayer, Healing Streams. Loveworld News, where we emphasize truth and deception. Truth Watch USA, where Americans are exposed to the truth. Topics such as the failed agenda of so-called globalists, what's really happening to your food, President Trump, a sign to the church. Prayer programs where effective prayers were offered. Tremendous power. Pray for America. Faith-filled programs like I'm Just Saying, Pastor Chris Worth reading, Stick to the Word, programs with Pastor Benny, and many more. We say thank you, dearest partners, for contributing towards our programming and daily operations through your partnership. Loveworld USA is positioned for a massive harvest of souls all around the world as we set our sail to reach more people in this second quarter, in more languages, and change more lives. This is a call to our dearest partners all over the world to join this mandate in completing the full preaching of the gospel to all nations as you sponsor our 2025 projects. 1. Pastor Chris in 1 Billion Homes Project. Ensure the spread of the message of the man of God through Loveworld USA. The spread of our ministry programs and agenda through satellite, cable, internet, digital, mobile apps, Alpha TV, OTT platforms, our news, and our current affairs. 2. Minutes to Reach Billions 4.0. Make your every minute count for the gospel as we spread the awareness of Loveworld USA to your world. 3. Translation of our language-specific channels. Make it possible for billions around the world to watch our programs in their native language. 4. Tag your name to a program. Sponsor and tag your name to our various Loveworld USA programs. You can adopt a specific program. 5. Studio upgrade. Join us today with your lavish gift to the work of Loveworld USA. Every SPs or dollar you give goes to accomplishing our mandate to fully preach the gospel with our life-transforming content. For more information, please call the number showing on your screen. God bless you.
Welcome back. South Korean Justice Minister Park Sung-jae has resumed his duties on April 10th after the Constitutional Court unanimously rejected an impeachment motion brought against him by the National Assembly. Park had been suspended for 119 days while the court reviewed allegations related to his conduct during a controversial cabinet meeting in December of 2024, shortly before the president, Yoon Suk-yeol, declared martial law. Though the court acknowledged Park committed certain legal violations, including failing to submit requested documents to Parliament and walking out of a plenary session, it ruled that these infractions were not severe enough to justify his dismissal. Notably, the court rejected claims that Park's attendance at the martial law cabinet meeting or his subsequent visit to a presidential staff house amounted to active support for an insurrection. The justice further clarified that while Park's initial refusal to submit specific documents, such as prison transfer logs for a key figure in a past corruption scandal, breached parliamentary oversight laws, his later accomplice mitigated the severity of the offense. The court also found procedural flaws in Parliament's requests for prosecutors spending records and rules that were no longer a legal basis to punish Park for leaving a National Assembly vote early. The ruling marks a significant win for Park, who had argued that his impeachment undermined constitutional order and was politically motivated. The court emphasized that holding public officials accountable is legitimate, even if political motives are present, but ultimately concluded that the case against Park did not meet the constitutional threshold for removal from office. Watch this.
Unanimously declared its decision not to uphold the dismissal of Park on allegations of collusion to impose martial law, citing the lack of tangible evidence. This ruling immediately reinstated Park into his post after almost 4 months of absence.
Prince Harry has made an unannounced visit to Lviv, Ukraine, to meet with victims of the ongoing war and observe recovery efforts at the Superhuman Center, a facility dedicated to rehabilitating both wounded military personnel and civilians. The visit kept confidential for security reasons until the prince had safely left the country, was coordinated with the Invictus Game Foundation, and highlighted Harry's ongoing commitment to veteran welfare. Accompanied by 4 veterans affiliated with the Invictus Games, Prince Harry spent time with patients receiving psychological treatment, reconstructive surgery, and prosthetics. He also met with Ukraine's Minister of Veteran Affairs, Natalia Kalmykova, and toured the clinic with Olga Rudneva. The center CEO had invited him during the Invictus Games Vancouver Whistler 2025 event. The Duke of Sussex, who served a decade in the British Army and founded the Invictus Games in 2014, emphasized the importance of supporting recovery efforts even amid active conflict. Rob Owen, CEO of the Invictus Games Foundation, said the visit demonstrated the foundation's enduring solidarity with Ukraine, which has participated in the Games since 2017. Prince Harry is only the second royal to visit Ukraine since Russia's 2022 invasion, following the Duchess of Edinburgh's trip to Kyiv. The visit also follows recent meetings between King Charles and President Zelensky, and the UK, underscoring continued royal engagement with the Ukrainian crisis. Let's take a look.
Welcome to Ukraine.
It's my first visit to Ukraine, and it certainly won't be the last. And it was an absolute honor and a privilege to be able to travel here with the Invictus delegation and to come here to the Superhuman Center and see what an absolutely mind-blowing care and rehabilitation that is provided here under this purpose-built roof. It's astonishing. And to see the surgeons right inside the eardrum trying to help, well, as many people as possible. And I've seen a lot of different centers, but they're having a purpose-built center where everything is under one roof and where individuals are going through surgery, and then in the same building they're being fitted with prosthetics, and then they are sent home, even though most of them don't want to go home, they want to stay here, and I understand why.
It's not
There is no rehabilitation center in the world that feels like this. I want to remind Ukraine that the world stands with them, and Invictus will be a partner with Ukraine and with its Ukrainian Invictus team for as long as needed. And we love the partnership.
Just before we end the news, a quick look at tomorrow's weather forecast. And to end the news today, a quick recap of the headlines. President Trump threatens tariffs, sanctions on Mexico over water shortage for Texas farmers. Trump assassination attempt suspect faces new state charge in Florida for attempted murder, terrorism. Supreme Court orders return of Maryland man wrongfully deported to El Salvador. Vietnam vows crackdown on Chinese transshipment to avert Trump tariffs. And that's the news for today. Join us at the same time tomorrow for more news. I'm Barbara Sam. Good night and God bless you.